Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on the latest topics. I'm Theodore Henry. Since Hurricane Melissa, we've seen unusual sights, water bubbling up through roads, yards, and even open fields in some parishes. Now, what's causing this? And is it dangerous? To help us understand, we're joined by Peter Clark, Managing Director of the Water Resources Authority, WRA. Welcome to Get the Facts, Sir Clark.
Hi.
All right, let's jump right into it.
Certainly.
The parishes that are currently experiencing this water rising from the ground, which parishes are these?
For sure, Manchester, because that is very, very topical. St. Elizabeth,
Right.
Hanover, Clarendon, St. James.
All right, so mostly
where has been affected by all of the wind damage from Melissa as well, where the core of the hurricane had passed through.
Right, and where the hurricane also dumped a lot of water as well.
And dumped a lot of water as well.
So then it can help. So give me some clarity here. Now, some people might say, oh, maybe it's underground pipes that have been burst. What is it?
No, it's not underground pipes at all. As a matter of fact, most of the pipes have been intact for the Water Commission and the other providers of water.
Right.
What we're having is, what we have to understand is that Jamaica, as a country, sits on lots of large pockets of water that we call aquifers. And we tap into these aquifers. We drill wells into these aquifers to take water from the aquifers.
Right.
All right, so we abstract water for domestic purposes. So a lot of water commission systems are from wells, a lot of the irrigation systems are from wells and so on, and a lot of private systems are from wells. So we tap into these aquifers. Now, when you get an abundance of rain, as we've had pre-Melissa, leading up to Melissa, and then into Melissa, into the system itself.
Right.
What you would have found is that a lot of the water now soaks into the ground. Remember now that all of this groundwater that we're talking about in aquifers was once rain. So all of our rivers, all of our water, our only source of incoming water into our hydrologic system, into our water systems is rainfall.
Right.
So the rain soaks into the ground, and now the ground it has to flow away underground. But it flows at a much slower rate than, for instance, rivers. So rivers will flow very quickly, while the groundwater advances ahead much, much slower. Thousands of times slower, probably a meter or 2 meters per year.
Okay.
So what it means is that if a bulk of water is percolating into the ground and it's advancing at this slow rate, then it's not going to move away as fast. What it is going to do is it's going to build up.
So the equation then is rate of entry versus rate of flowing away slower than entry. So what we have is a overflow.
You just give the hydrological principle of I minus O equal delta storage.
Nice.
Input minus output is storage. If input is greater than output, storage increases. If input is less than output, storage decreases. Just like a reservoir.
So in layman's term, the ground full.
The ground is now full of water.
Wow.
Basically, it's full of water, and what it is doing is it's rising. So even sinkholes that normally drain the water away are now becoming basically reverse funnels that are now offering that conduit, that pipeline, that way. I don't use the word pipeline because there's no pipeline. Offering that route for the water to come up into the community. Now, for instance, in content, content is basically a community that's situated in a depression, a very large depression, a bowl.
Right.
All right, so what it means is that water will just keep coming up and filling this bowl. So if your house is situated in the lower sections of it, you will be where water is rising, and you will be affected a whole lot more than anybody that is up on the slopes.
Right.
And it is as simple as that.
Right.
Now, at the end of the day, and I'm sure you're going to be wondering, how fast is it rising?
Yes.
No, that's one of the jobs and functions of the Water Resources Authority. So we put gauges in there and we're monitoring it. And essentially we're seeing what we would call a phenomenal rate of roughly a foot per day.
Foot per day.
Roughly a foot per day. So if you went there last week and saw houses with water up to the windowsills, it would mean that if you go there this week, you'd see the water up to the roof, or maybe you'd even see the building.
6 feet?
Exactly, because that's 6-7 feet.
But Sir Clark, you said a foot per day in all the areas?
In this area of content.
Okay.
In other areas, no.
Okay, so
we're speaking about content here. Yeah,
Right.
I was speaking about content with regards to the foot per day.
Right.
In other areas, for instance, it's much less. And it's not always groundwater that's rising. in other areas. You have other areas that are also in depressions. And what is happening now, for instance, in Brighton and outside of Santa Cruz, that water now, the New River and the Braze River and so on. So the New River especially overtopped its banks, and then the water flooded out all of this flat bowl kind of area and created that flooding that is there for them. So as the river recedes, which it will respond to, it was excessive rainfall that caused it to be in such high speed. So as the river recedes, we also anticipate that that will recede. So you'll see the receding of the water in that area maybe a lot quicker than you'll see it in content. Because in content, it has to soak away into ground that already is contained in the water.
And
so
which
we have to
slowly.
So that has to move away.
All right. So, okay. So now you've just identified two very different sources of rising groundwater. Now, tell me, residents who might be seeing this water approaching, what's the word to them?
Well, the word is take it as a message. Take heed. Because the fact is that we can't tell you right now when it is going to stop rising.
Yes.
All right? So it will be advancing higher and further as a result of the groundwater that's rising. So if you recognize that you are in a vulnerable area or a vulnerable part of the same community and it has not risen to you yet, but you have your suspicions, I would say discretion is the better part of valor. Don't try to brave it out. I would say pack up. I would say move your belongings and secure your belongings. Put them somewhere safe if in case you need to move quickly, and at least you don't have that headache to try to figure out what to do with all your stuff. Figure out from now what you're going to do with all of your stuff if the water hasn't reached to you yet.
Because underlining it, what you are seeing across these areas is that water is rising.
We are up to now, water is rising.
Still rising.
I mean, there was one instance when it was not, when maybe it had broken through some conduit or cavern underground and would have maybe receded a little bit. But then it would have now filled that space and started rising again.
Got it.
So we did say once at one time that our readings were that it was going down. And it was going down, but that was a momentary thing. And people will hear these things as well, you know, because in some of the instances, especially in limestone areas, it's not now just moving through sand and gravels and so on. It may actually be moving through small caverns and so on.
People might hear like a river underground.
Sometimes you may hear like a river underground. You may hear like, it may be a gurgling, a mild gurgling.
Right.
It may be a harsh gurgling, like when you hear a toilet flushing or whatever. But whatever the situation is, you know, that would have explained why we saw it going down a little bit, in that it would have probably found its way now into a larger cavern where it would then start filling that, and now having filled it, nowhere else to go again, so it continues rising.
This is fascinating, Sir Clark. Hold on, I have to stick up in. We're going to go to a break right now. We're going to continue this discussion, though, when we return.
If you don't have any business in the western end of the island, please do not go. The traffic pileup is actually creating a risk to persons' lives. Our inability to efficiently transport relief supplies to the region because of persons coming out of their vehicle and sightseeing and doing selfies, as we saw over the last several days, is creating a significant traffic pileup. And if there is blockage in, let's say, Holland Bamboo, then the relief trucks cannot come out.
During the passage of Hurricane Melissa, many Jamaicans were affected, some more than others. As the authorities do what is necessary to bring relief to those who need it most, let us consider the feelings of our brothers and sisters as we traverse this difficult time. The selfies can wait.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're continuing our discussion with Peter Clark, Managing Director of the Water Resources Authority, WRA. Sir Clark, one of the things that we had established in the first half of our interview was that there's not much to do right now but to watch it. Is that accurate?
That is pretty accurate. And that is exactly how it is playing out right now.
Yeah.
In that, yes, there's not much to do. For the groundwater, we just have to wait until it soaks away.
Right.
And I say it may be some time before it soaks away. In 2002, Content had similar flooding. Similar in the sense that there was flooding. Dissimilar, not similar in terms of the rate. The rate of flooding then was not as fast as now, and the height it eventually came to was not as high as now. All right, and at that time in June 2002, we had the rains early in June, and by the end of June, which was about 3 weeks later, it had basically soaked away. But the thing within June now, at that time in 2002, was that in soaking away, it also pushed in the groundwater down into the porous area. And then we had water now springing out of the banks in porous, reminding us of why the old people call the town porous.
It's porous.
And so it started pushing out of the banks inside of the porous area. And then there were little waterfalls and there were little streams and rivers running down the side of the road. And on a Saturday, people would come there with chicken sandwiches and everything, and picnic and all of that.
Yeah.
You're too young to remember this, but I'm telling you that as a fact, that this happened, that people were there.
Okay.
All right? Every Saturday and Sunday, it was a big attraction for maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
So we'll be seeing this water in one area or the other for some time.
It could very well, yes. It could very well as a breakout again. Further down as the groundwater advances, down gradient, it could then break out further, in the porous area. Even Harmons, for instance, sometimes flooding in Harmons is as a result of what's groundwater that's coming right through into that area.
But I need to ask you about the WRA and its work with other agencies. So we can't stop or prevent it, but we can assess and manage it. So how is the WRA working with like the NWA, NWC, ODPEM?
Well, we've had discussions with the NWA, of course, because when it comes to the matter of containing floods and building structures, bridges and gullyways and culverts and all of this, the NWA is absolutely critical in that. They have that responsibility, as a matter of fact.
Right.
So yes, they are out there as well. We've been having discussion with them. But even in discussing with them, we are seeing where, as things stand right now, there's not much that we're able to do. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about from the scientific point of view is, for instance, if you could pump a lot of wells down gradient to see if you could pull some groundwater. But then a lot of these wells now are not in a position to be energized. The power is down. So there are all kinds of issues.
Wait. So we can't do the pumping because we don't have access to power in those areas. That's what you're saying?
There's that problem as well.
Got it.
And of course, a lot of these wells are not being used. So you don't even have pumps on them. A few of the pumps, you don't have pumps on them presently.
So even this plan would be a lot of infrastructure.
A lot of work to even bring that into play. A lot of work to bring that into play. And then how much would you move? That's the question. How much would you move? That is,
So it's a waiting game.
It is a waiting game at this stage. Unfortunately, no, this is not a happy bit of news for the people that live there.
Of course not.
Of course, who are severely impacted. It's not a happy. They can't be happy campers with what has happened, and they can't be happy campers with what they are hearing.
Right.
Because they're not hearing much. There's not much that's coming at them to say this is a solution. Because frankly, it would take. I would think it would take massive engineering to really present a solution, massive engineering. And at the same time, that takes time in and of itself.
Right.
And everybody's problems now is immediate.
And looking at the problem being immediate, some people might think that, okay, this is just here, but we do expect it to recede. We do expect it to sort itself out.
We do expect it to recede. In other communities, it has not receded much. For instance, in the Monique area, we do know of the almost permanent Monique Lake. And there are houses that have been underwater in Monique since 2012. And totally abandoned. And there are houses that have been built since on the edge of the lake because somebody says, I'll take my chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is our anticipation that it will recede. And, there will be some normalization. But normalization is only until something similar conditions, similar conditions come together again, and it may well happen. No, the last time was 2002, that's 23 years ago. No, I'm not going to say it happens every 23 years. It could very well happen December.
When things come together.
When everything
Everything
comes together. Yeah.
So until it recedes, what advice do you have for people interacting with this standing water?
Well, my first piece of advice is do not interact with this water. Do not interact with this water. The fact is that even though it might have come up as clear groundwater, because our groundwater is pretty much pristine and clear normally, it would now have interacted, it would now have mixed with, been in contact with the terrain. All right, and when I say the terrain, I mean from ground level down to maybe 20 feet, where you'd have, for instance, there may be the presence of absorption pits and pit toilets in the area. There may have been...
Wait, absorption, you mean like soak away?
Yeah, soak away,
Okay.
soak away. Yeah, soak away pits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Only that, no, it can't soak away.
Soak away anything.
Because the water content surrounding is so great. So you between the possible presence of soak-away pits, the possible presence of, for instance, goat pens, I don't know, pig pens, I don't know, for sure your dogs and your other chickens and so on in the backyard. So everything is kind of mixed in right now. So it's not water that you want to go playing in. I would advise that. And children look, but it's the greatest, I guess it's every child's dream to wake up one morning and see a swimming pool in the backyard. But in this instance, it is not to be interacted with. Nobody should be going swimming. Nobody should be, going boating unless it's absolute. I mean, I saw that the JDF went in there and performed a rescue of a young dog, for instance.
Right.
And I understand the need for these kinds of things, but it is not for recreational boating at this stage or anything like that.
So the word Circlac here.
And remember, it's deep.
Yes. So the word here at the end of the interview is this water, it is unlikely to be safe. Just do not interact with
That's
it.
right.
Thank you for joining me, Peter Clark, Managing Director of the Water Resources Authority, WRA. Until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Thank you for joining us on Get the Facts.